Welcome to my another episode of my Substack content, which is recorded live through my laptop. A decade ago, in summer of 2016, British people went to the polls and decide their own fate in terms of their relationship with the European Union, whether they choose to remain in the bloc or get out from the bloc. And the vote said that British people wanted the UK to get out from the EU, from the European Union, and it ended of more than 43 years tenure of membership in what was then called as European Economic Community. And 4 years later, it finalized in 31st of January 2020 that the UK was officially left the European Union in a hard Brexit way without any deals regarding the UK's future relationship with the EU, with the single market, and other institutions within the European Union. Now, 10 years on since Brexit, does it feel better or feel bad for Britain? Months after the UK officially left the EU, in March 2020, we still remember a global pandemic that spread originally from Wuhan in China in late 2019, struck the whole world and literally destroyed global economy, including Britain and China itself, where the COVID-19 first originated. And since then, Britain has suffered a consecutive yet consequential tumultuous crisis, affected from Brexit, affected from its hard way of Brexit approach, affected by COVID, which now ended up in cost of living crisis in which the UK still dealt with it to this day, to turbulent recession, and these days UK have to deal with illegal illegal immigration that first caused by the Spanish government opened their southern border with Morocco that led many illegal immigrants are invading that country, and Britain has a lot of things to do to stop the small boats to avoid worst case scenarios caused by the illegal immigration. Now, I want you to know what my stance on Brexit to this day. Up to this day, I still denounce that decision. To be honest, in 2016, I endorsed, supported, and even voted the UK to remain within the EU at that time. And I even campaigned for another referendum to happen, to make sure that decision was right or wrong. But fact says the government at that time, led by the Tories, doesn't want another referendum or have British people have the final say on that. And and in January 2020, as I said earlier, the UK officially left the EU for good. And 6 years after that, many Brits I thought that the decision to leave the EU was totally wrong, and they demanded that the UK to rejoin the European Union one day, not under the current Labour government, not even under not under the sooner or later reform UK government, not even under the potential Tory government, because both reform and Tories are wanted the UK to remain out from the EU, while Labour Some of them wanted the UK to remain out of the EU, and some of them wanted the UK to get in back to the EU. Get I mean get in back to join the EU. That's the complete statement. Me myself is positioned myself as the rejoiner campaign. As a rejoiner campaigner, I demanded the UK to go back to join the EU, to gradually fix stuffs that left by the Tories in destroying Britain. Nowadays, nowadays the UK wa- nowadays the UK wanted to limit the legal and illegal immigration under the current Labour government. That plan, that plan, however, was first planned by the Tories and later campaigned by the Reform and Restore Britain to limit legal and illegal immigration in the UK. But does it good for the UK? While the UK is currently shrinking in terms of their workforce age because numerous of British people are going abroad to search for better lives. Either they live in another country in Europe. Even George Galloway, a fellow socialist British politician like Andy Burnham and Zach Polanski, is now living in Russia in exile. Some of them are choose to live outside the EU, namely one of the donor of the Reform Party UK, who lives in Thailand, sadly speaking, in order to search for a better life, in order to search for a better future outside of the UK, while some others are choose to stick and remain in the UK, searching for a better future that is not sure when will truly happen. In my view, Brexit was the worst ever decision taken by Britain because it hurts Britain a lot. It hurts Britain into pieces. It broke Britain into ruins. Britain Britain become a small player in the global stage and a small player in the European stage because of the British egos that they don't want it to be so-called controlled by the European Union. While in the EU, the UK could play a much bigger role in global stage. While in the EU, the UK can play bigger in global big screens, not in small screens. So how to reverse this? Of course, the UK should form a pro-European government and a pro-European opposition in order to bolt the UK back to the EU. Of course, the UK need a pro-EU government and a pro-EU opposition. Both will drive the UK back to the EU in another approach that surely sure that the EU will accept the UK's reapplication to join the EU in the far future times to come. But do remember the landscape of UK politics is so different. Well, I'll be back with more after You're welcome back. In my honest opinion, how to bring back the UK to rejoin the EU is by forming a pro-European government with a party that joins the pro-European political parties like the EPP. Labour belong to PES, Party of European Socialists. The Liberal Democrats belong to Renew Europe Group, and the Tories is part of the European Conservatives and Reformists Group, while the Reform UK could soon maybe apply for Patriots for Europe or um, even ESN, European of Sovereign Nations, in the very far future to come, if they will. Forming a pro-European government in the UK is so really hard because the UK's political landscape is dominantly Eurosceptic. Nearly all big and small political parties in the UK are generally Eurosceptic, and some political parties, political organizations, and political groups, and some small numbers of British population have pro-European views, or largely have Eurosceptic views that led to Britain voted to get themselves out from the EU in 10 years ago. But because of their ego, they ruined the country into a cost of living crisis. They they left many people went on to live in poverty without knowing when and where to buy meals. I think I think the current Labour cost of living government will be able to fix the cost of living crisis to make end to rough sleeping and cost of living crisis by what? By simply not only we join the EU, but not only we join the EU, but fix the fundamental part of Britain that broke by the Tories, especially during the Thatcher era. That's all. Thanks for listening and enjoy your day. And let's get Britain rejoin the EU.